Okay, welcome everybody to today's open forum. Good morning. We're going to start today with what I advertise there. I've had a couple of people ask me about commercial leasing lately. Most of you guys do this as an extra service. You're not out there looking to do this, but you're doing an extra service for clients that you have, that you're helping them buy a house or whatever, and then they want to open a hair salon or a restaurant or this or that. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go over some retail stuff. I'm going to use retail for an example because mostly that's what you guys are doing. I do want to make it very clear with you guys. I recommend that you use some of our resources, some of the commercial agents we have, before you just delve into commercial stuff that you haven't done before or anything that you haven't done before. But in this case, we have a couple of people here who will help you mentor you through your first deal of these. And most of the time you guys are just offering it as an extra service to your client anyway, not as a huge source of income. And frankly, if they're going to we'll go over the numbers and what you guys will actually make when you do these, and you'll see that there's not a lot of money in it anyway. So if you find a mentor who's willing to help you with it, that's great. And you'll be able to service your clients. And along the way, you'll be able to learn something, and eventually you won't need a mentor or need any help with it. But I'm going to go over some very basic stuff with you because I don't want you guys. I know you guys want to help people. I know you guys want to learn more stuff, put some other arrows in your quill, if you will, some more bullets in your gun that you'll able to use to help people. So let's and improve your worth as an agent and your value as an agent. So let's talk about some of these things before we start. Are there any questions before we start? All right, well, let's do it.
You mean questions regarding commercial or questions regarding other stuff?
Not other stuff yet.
Okay.
Other stuff is after this. Okay, let's just do.
Oh, wait, Ryan, I do have a question. For commercial properties, are we all just looking on Stellar MLS for those leasings and listings?
No, we're about to cover that right now. Great question. That is, you have led me right into it. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Segue.
Are there
Thank you.
additional licensing or certification things that you would recommend that some people look into?
Not for what we're going to talk about today. That's a great question. And I know you know the answer to that, so I appreciate you asking. Not for today. For what we're going to talk about today, of course, there are CCIMs. There are for if you're going to do land clearances on here, I could tell you all about the land institutes and all that kind of stuff. There's all kinds of certification stuff that you'll need if you're going to do this full time. But what I'm talking to you guys about today is just kind of dipping your toes into it. This is going to be a very basic 101 class of the things to do and the questions to ask and what's going to happen when you do get a mentor involved. And then if you're trying to do something on your own, the kind of things that you're going to need to know, the very basic things you're going to need to know before you even really get much into help with a mentor and everything else. Kind of give you an idea of what you're looking at, because a lot of people don't have any idea, which is perfectly fine. I don't have any idea about a lot of stuff. We're all ignorant just about different things. I think Mark Twain said that. And if I'm wrong, then I'm ignorant about that. So there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with not knowing stuff. There's nothing wrong with asking for help or getting help. And certainly nothing wrong with getting a mentor to help you learn anything. So, but especially about this stuff, because this is important. And like I always cover with you guys, this is real business. So let's do it. Let's take a look. Okay, so to answer your question, Victoria. Well, first of all, Vivian, yes, your license covers commercial. The licensing that you have, you don't have further licensing, but you certainly there are certifications and more importantly, the education that comes along with those that are not necessarily required, but definitely recommended before you don't want to make a mistake when you're doing this. So to answer your question, Victoria, this is LoopNet. So I just went on loopnet.com, free account. Anyone can go on here. You can go on LoopNet right now. Feel free to. You'll see what I put in here. I just did for lease in Tampa, and picked a few things. I already have. You guys can see my tabs. I've already loaded some of them up here. I picked some different ones because I wanted to go over different scenarios with you guys. Okay. Let's look at this one first. Okay, this is 4211 East Bush. You'll see here that it is a one floor unit. It's on the first floor, but there's only one floor. 2,400 square feet. They're giving you lease terms. So these are all negotiable things. So lease terms are negotiable. 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years typically is what commercial is going to come in. You'll see some 1 years here and there, but 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. The rental rate, $20 a square foot per year, and triple net. We'll go over triple net. I've gone over that before with our commercial training, but I'll go over that again with you. So just to answer one of the most asked questions, and one of the things you guys are going to consider, how do I get paid on these? Okay, and that's also going to be one of the questions you're going to ask when you call Michael Monteclaro. Okay, you get paid the initial term, times the base rental rate. That's called the base rental rate, $20 a square foot. Part of the reason I like this example is because I can do the math, and that's what you're going to get paid on. Now you're going to have renewals in commercial. There's going to be typically you'll get let's say it's a 5-year term with 2 renewals at the tenant's option. Okay, that'll be the tenant's option for renewal. We're also going to go over LOIs, and if I forget, remind me later to go over letters of intent, LOIs, for this as well. Okay, so let's say you negotiate, you call them, they say we'd like to do, well, they want to do 10 years, but they'll do 5 years with 2 renewals. Okay, so you'll get paid on the initial term, the 5 years. You will not get paid on the renewals. You get paid on 5 years times $20 per square foot per year, right? So, well, let's say I should have done a better job. Let's say this was 2,000 square feet, okay? Times $20 a square foot per year, which is how much? 40,000 a year, right? Times 5 years, which is our initial term that I use for this example. So 5 years times 40,000, the amount that you're going to get paid on is $200,000. That's their 5 years of base rent. There's also going to be escalators in their rent, but you don't get paid on those either. You'll get paid on the initial year amount times 5 years. This will typically have a 3% escalator per year, something like that, to keep up with inflation. Hold on one second. I've got to keep allowing people in. So that's what you'll get paid on, $200,000. Now, if you call Michael, one of the questions you're going to ask him is, what is my co-broke? Meaning, what is the co-broke on this? Meaning, what percentage is he offering? Like you do when you offer an MLS, there's no way to do this on commercial. It's not covered by an MLS. So he'll typically say, 3% co-broke. Okay. Listings work a lot the same way. He's what's called a landlord rep. He's representing the owners, and he's doing probably a 6% commission with a 3% co-broke usually. Okay. So the other question you're going to ask him every time, unless they have it in the listing, is what is the CAM? This one actually, I pulled the flyer on this one, and this one actually tells what the CAM is. This is very low. You rarely see $4 square foot CAM anymore. And he's actually done the math for you as well. It's going to be $4,000 a month plus $791 in CAM, and that is just the math of the 2,386 square feet times the $20 square foot base, and the 398 times 2,386 or whatever, and that's going to come up with a 791 CAM per month. And you also have sales tax. So that's what your client will actually pay, is those numbers plus sales tax. Okay, so around $4,800 plus sales tax. Okay. Yes, Marissa Bell, you have a question? Thought you did. Okay, your hand is up. All right. So that is, are there any questions on that? I know that's a lot of
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
So what is the CAM? What does that stand
Okay,
for?
great. So that's the triple net. Great question. So that's the triple net. Okay. So CAM literally means common area maintenance, but it's kind of like how we call we call the congressmen and senators, we call them all together Congress. People call it CAM. That covers all three of these things, the triple nets. One is insurance, one is property taxes, and one is common area maintenance, which is exactly what you think it is, the yard and the lights and the entire outside building maintenance. Okay, so why does a landlord do it this way? Why do they do triple net instead of figuring all those things out and saying this is what your rent is? And the question and the answer is, well, it's in a building like this, it's because those things go up all the time. Okay, those things they're not controllable. As we know, in Florida, property taxes always go up everywhere. Property taxes always go up. Insurance is going up like crazy right now. And common area maintenance, if you guys have a yard guy or a pool guy or you pay your own electric bill, how's that doing? It's going up, right? So those things are called those pass-throughs. Those are the pass-throughs that make up the triple net. Now, in big commercial real estate, those are done for packaging these up and selling them. Okay. So so a REIT can come in, a real estate investment trust can come in and buy a building and know based on the rental rate what their actual return on their investment is going to be, because they don't have to figure all these out. These are all passed through to the tenant. So yes, they could rent this to you since it's $20 plus $3.98 in CAM. They could just say, oh, it's $24 a square foot, all inclusive. Okay. So there are different types of things here. You'll see triple net, you'll see double net, you'll see modified gross, you'll see all inclusive, you'll see utilities only, you'll see stuff like that. Okay. And that is you need to get the clarification from the listing agent each time on what those actually are, what the nets actually are. But triple net always means insurance, property taxes, and common area maintenance. But they'll call it, a lot of times they'll say CAM. Is that what they said here? Do they call it CAM? Yeah, they call it CAM, common area maintenance. But it's not just common area maintenance, it's everything. Okay.
Now I have another question.
Yes.
Just to be safe, don't we have to ask the agent for some type of has something in writing that the commission that will be paid is what will be getting? Because I understand that sometimes they don't put this nowhere.
They don't. They'll tell you. And if you and yes, you should. But they're telling you, when they tell you that, you're going to put together a letter of intent, and it's going to be on there. Okay. So that's going to be part of your letter of intent, and it's going to be based on what they told you.
And
right?
how do I do that?
If you get that information from him in an email, that would be better, or by text or whatever, that would be better. So you have it in writing, but you're going to put it in a letter of intent anyway. Okay, that is not, you know how in MLS, you're not allowed to say, if somebody offers 2.5%, you're not allowed to say, I'll put on the contract 3% to EDA. You're not allowed to do that. In commercial, you are. He has a listing agreement that says what he can pay you, but you are allowed to try to negotiate, because you're allowed to. He's not restricted by MLS rules. You can ask him to negotiate his listing agreement. You can ask him to, whatever you want to do. You can still get paid by your buyer, or in this case, your tenant, if you want. You can do whatever you want, but yes, it's great if you get it from him in writing, but you're going to put it in a letter of intent anyway, which they're going to negotiate. Now, let me tell you, since you brought that up, I'll just get to the letter of intent. So a letter of intent is when you put down all of your terms, you're going to write them in a letter with basic headings. Oh, I should have done this before. I apologize. I'm going to Google a sample.
So Brian, when you're comping these, are you going to be able to give us some helpful hints?
When I'm doing what? I'm sorry?
When we're trying to comp these for our tenants, do you have any good suggestions for us on valuations?
Yeah, just look at other ones around just look at just like you would anything else. This is something I tell you guys a lot of times. It's hard to comp commercial properties, but it's not hard to comp rentals like this. You just look at what else has leased in that in that area. What else is up for lease in that area? Let me see what they've got here. I apologize for this. Okay, this is kind of it. I don't know if you guys can't really see that. I'm going to blow it up for you. Okay. Oh, they're trying to sell me this stuff. Hold on one second, guys. Okay, here we go. This is a very professional letter that you write. You indicate you're submitting this letter with intent to do a specific act. So you're telling them that, you know, my client so-and-so, Bob's Restaurant LLC is interested in renting this property that you have, leasing the property that you have on whatever the address is. Indicate that the intent is based on the following conditions. So you're going to do all that stuff. Define the specifics about the item behind the intent, behind the listing, all pertinent. Okay. You're going to do considerations. That is what you're willing to provide as compensation. So lease amount, base rent amount, lease terms. This is where you want to do the 3, 5, 10 years, whatever it's going to be, with two tenant option renewals. You put in there the escalator, whatever they tell you that the terms are that they want, that you agree to. Other things that you're going to do, but they might have it on there for $20 a foot, but you want to offer 18. This is where you do that. So the idea behind this is to come to terms on everything before you get any professional legal help involved, and it costs a lot of money. So that's what you want to do. Now, typically this is involved when you're buying a property, a commercial property, but also with leasing. It's always done with leasing as well, and it usually is pretty close to what the landlord kind of sets the rules with the leasing. You can negotiate certain terms, but you are going to be mostly adhering to what they have, and they already have their own lease, etc. Now you'll have your tenant have an attorney look over that lease, but you don't want to do that until they've come to an agreement on the terms. That's what letters of intent are for, is to lay out the terms of buying or renting something before you start paying attorneys to go over the details, right? Attorneys are expensive. You don't want them going over the details of something and then you're still $3 a square foot apart on the base rent, right? So that is the purpose of a letter of intent. You will also put in here that Vivian Katz of Florida Realty Investments will receive a 3% commission. Okay, this is where you put that. So, and typically it's half paid. I want to tell you guys that this is in commercial leasing, it is typically half paid at lease signing and half paid at rent commencement, meaning when they actually start paying rent. One of the things you can negotiate here, and we'll get into that. You have two ways to negotiate here besides the base rent and everything else. Typically, you get some kind of incentive. Your tenant will get some kind of incentive. So you'll ask Michael, what kind of incentives do you guys have? Are you guys doing TI? Well, okay, so if you wanted to use this for what it already is, which is some kind of showroom, right? If you want to use it for a showroom and you think, oh, you know what, this is pretty nice. We'll just put a few shelves here and a few shelves there and we're ready to go. Then you wouldn't want tenant improvement. You'd want free rent. And what free rent is they'll typically do, look, we'll give you $20 a square foot in tenant improvement. They'll call it TI. We'll give you $20 a square foot in TI, or we'll give you 6 months of free rent. Okay. These are all things that you negotiate. And this is why you need a mentor. They know what kinds of things to negotiate, what kind of things to do. Now, $20 a square foot in tenant improvement would be the $2,400 times $20 for tenant improvement. That's a pretty healthy one. But if you want to turn this into a restaurant, obviously you're going to need a lot of tenant improvement. So you find out which is worth more money, the free rent or the tenant improvement. You find out what's more important to your client, right? So those are all things that you put in your letter of intent. These are all things that you can negotiate. Marissa Bill, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Sorry, earlier I couldn't take it off mute. Is there I'm not somebody that's looking for a church.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of space can look for that?
Well, there are, I would say, well, you got to find out where they want to be and what's available in that area. whatever
have
they can do.
that.
Typically it's old retail is where you're seeing them now is what we call burned out retail, meaning, something that went out of business. There are a lot of churches in my area that are in old shopping centers. Every time Publix builds a new center, they vacate their old one and they're trying to do something with that space. I've seen them turned into all kinds of stuff, trampoline parks and everything else. So, I've seen some turned into storage. There's one in Brooksville is turned into storage. It's a pretty good idea too. So there's all kinds of things that you can do, but typically what I've seen them going in is old retail. But it's whatever you find for them. You can't just stick them in an old industrial spot that doesn't allow for churches. It's not.
That's
not
what
made
I'm
for
trying to
people
find
come
out.
to- Pardon me?
That's what I would like to know. Like, what is there anything special for churches?
No, there's nothing special for churches except for old churches if you can find one. And there are churches building new buildings and selling their old ones as well. So, no, but I would start on LoopNet and Crexi, CREXI.com.
What is it?
Crexi, CREXI.com. So
Can I email you later about that?
yeah, I'll put it in the chat. I'll do that right now.
I can't even see the chat.
Oh, you can't see the chat? Okay, then email.
No,
That's perfectly fine. Email me. All right. So I saw a couple other hands up. Sorry. Wilmeth, you have a hand up? All right. Tammy, go ahead.
What about zoning
For churches?
or for rent or any rental? Like you have
Well,
to.
that's what you have to figure out. I mean, we're
Yeah.
talking about retail right now. If you have a
Okay.
retail, I looked at retail.
Okay.
See here, so retail, you pick whichever one you want. I could have picked office, industrial, restaurant, flex, medical, land. I could pick any of those things, but I picked retail.
I'm looking for pharmacy and it's a pain in the butt.
That's kind of a specialty one.
Yeah.
It's kind of retail and medical
But
mixed.
not
or
for
whatever.
lease, for purchase, and it's difficult, but
Okay, so yeah, so if you were doing lease, you could find an old Walgreens or an old something that they could use. But I know what you're looking for, and you have to talk to the jurisdiction that they want to be in, and you can get things rezoned. They might need a land use attorney to go in and help them get rezoned.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point if you have a unique use like that. But typically the ones I'm getting are, people looking for restaurants or nail salons or stuff like that. So, and I do get a lot of people looking for churches like Marissa does. So that's, and these are typically families that you guys have helped find a home, and now they want to move their business here, or, move their business now that they're here, move it to a bigger place or a different place. Wilmeth, are you there? Or
Yes, I'm there.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
How do you analyze commercial real estate, and what is the biggest challenge in the commercial real estate business?
There's the biggest challenge is that it's completely different, and you need to learn with someone. I started my career in commercial. I worked with a mentor for 4 years. I mostly did land. I did when you do land, and Clarence can tell you this. You hit home runs, but there's a lot of time in between your home runs, and you need to hit singles and doubles so you can pay the bills in the meantime. So I did leasing, commercial leasing, some retail leasing, things like that, just to survive while my first deal that I got as in land. I made $284,000 when it closed, but it was 2.5 years later. So in the meantime, I had to do a bunch of stuff. It was a big subdivision that's still in existence today, 999 units. But it took 2.5 years to close, and I made a bunch of money, and I split that with my mentor, and still made $284,000. But it took 2.5 years to close, and I would not have known what to do. I had a mentor on the deal. I knew the buyer and seller. I put everything together. and I had a mentor on the deal. And otherwise, that's $284,000 I would not have had otherwise. You know, I can be mad that he made $284,000, but I'm not. I am very thankful, you know, because it's you turn nothing into something. You know, half of a pie is better than none of a pie. So that's there's so much to know, and so many things that can go wrong, and it is very, very it's very, very difficult to do a completely different business. It's, you know, it'd be like me to get into pet grooming tomorrow and ask you to send me your dog over so I can cut their hair. I have no idea what I'm doing. I would definitely need someone to teach me the ropes. That is the most difficult part of commercial, is that, you know, everybody gets, you know, I just said $284,000 and everybody's excited about that, but it's very, very difficult to do. Lots of things to mess up. There's, you know, the same liability you have in residential, only with different dollar amounts and a lot of different moving parts. I hope that answers your question. It's something that you want to get a mentor. If you want to do it, then you need to do it. If you don't want to do it, then you need to get someone to either refer it to someone or have them walk you through the deal, or get a mentor. I hope that answers your question. Clarence.
Yeah, I'd just like to add to what you're talking about there for a little more relevance. So yeah, transitioning into land or commercial in general is a huge task for somebody that's been doing residential for some time. You know, like Ryan talked about, starting out in land and working commercial. He didn't have the residential background that steered him in the wrong direction, if you will, or threw him off, because like he says, it is a completely different animal. And so you want to take baby steps with it. And again, make sure that you're working with somebody that is in the know and understands the process. And like I tell in my classes when I talk about land, people trying to get into the land business, you know, worst case scenario, refer it to somebody else that knows what they're doing with the property. And at least you still get a piece of the pie. You're not losing out. And, you know, so many times I have people refer things to me and they don't even, you know, accept a referral fee, which is fine for me. But, you know, if somebody refers something to me, I want to give them a piece of the pie. But they're just to the mindset, I don't want to have anything to do with it at all. And that's, you know, that's fine. But for those of you that are in the Orlando area and part of the Orlando Association, you know, I'm part of the commercial council there. And we've been working to develop opportunities for people to learn more about commercial. So if you have an interest in it and I can be help to you, you know, please reach out to me and let me know. I am not a commercial specialist. I'm a land specialist. So I dabble in commercial a little bit. I've done some commercial leasing. That's what I did when I first got in, working with land, kind of like what Ryan was talking about. But I realized that was not my forte. I don't care to do leasing, commercial, residential, or otherwise. too much of a headache for me. But anyway, if I could be of help to anybody, let me know. But otherwise, if you're in another area, reach out to your local association and see what opportunities they may have for you. You don't have to become a CCIM or one of the other designations to work in commercial industry. But if you're serious about doing that, you know, picking up one of the designations could really be helpful. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, and to let you guys know, CCIM is a very, very serious designation. It takes a lot of work, a lot of learning, and a lot of experience to get it. AJ is a CCIM, and he's with us as well. He's not on this call, but he usually is, AJ Babar, and he is a great mentor for this leasing stuff. I really honestly have not seen him turn one down for being too small. He'll help you. Very super nice guy, very educated, very knows his way around this better than I do. He's very, very good on this. So AJ's an available resource for you as well. And he's usually on these calls. He's not in today, but I will, if you need anything, I will put you in touch with him. Typically, if you guys, a lot of you guys have asked me about this before, and I've typically just forwarded it to AJ and copy it. And I've become so confident that he'll help you that I typically copy you on it now when I forward it to him and say, hey, you interested? And he reaches right out to you guys. So I appreciate AJ's help on all that stuff. And he has helped you guys through some deals, and you guys have learned, those of you who have used AJ have learned with him. I want to talk to you guys about another one. There's Clarence's information. This is another example I pulled. $20 a year, 4,000 square feet, $20 a year in base rent. This is Old Burger 21. Some of you guys may know this. It's on Dale Mabry in Tampa. It is what I call a burned out Burger 21. So meaning that they gave up and left, or they found a better building or whatever. It used to be that, now it's nothing. The space was once home to second generation restaurant. It includes a usable outdoor space. You pay more for end cap. It's worth more. You see, they've got more of a presence here than the ones down the side or around this shopping center. This is obviously an older shopping center. And there it is. Great traffic counts and stuff there. I know exactly where it is. This one does not have, okay, so Surratt Properties did not do a offering memorandum, which is what I showed you before when I clicked on that thing and it gave you the CAM and all that stuff. LoopNet has the demographics for all these areas that they provide for their members. LoopNet so LoopNet's free to look at it, but if you want to list stuff and you want all this stuff involved with it, it's you pay for it. It's owned by CoStar. It's pretty expensive. It is a much more of an investment to be a commercial agent than a residential agent. And you'll see working with do you guys know the old thing about the guy who fixes submarines, and they have him come out to look at the submarine, and he's looking at under the submarine, and he goes to the little panel and he opens up the panel and he takes his big pipe wrench and he bangs it 3 times on something in the panel there, and fixes it. It fixes the submarine. And they said, "Oh my gosh, you fixed it already? How much did that cost?" He goes, "That'll be $25,000. And they said, for hitting it with a wrench 3 times? He said, "No, hitting it with the wrench 3 times is only $10. The other $24,990 is knowing where to hit." And so it's knowing what to do. It's not so much all of the hard work that's involved, but it's knowing what to do and where to hit that the value of getting a mentor is. And those of you who have been mentors for people understand that. It's knowing what to do. It's not so much all the hard work that goes into it, because the protege is going to do a lot of the hard work and some of the legwork and stuff. But it's knowing what to do that puts you in so much better position. It's not so much hard work. It's knowing what to do. For those of you asking, this recording will be on your YouTube channel. If you don't have that, email Michelle for it. Oh, thank you, Mandy, for AJ's information. Perfect. All right. So going through this one, we're going to call Mark Surratt at Surratt Properties, obviously the broker. We're going to call him, probably the broker. We're going to call him, ask him what is the co-broke, how much is CAM. So the term is negotiable. That's 3, 5, or 10 years, and it's going to be with tenant renewals. That is something you just assume. It's 3, 5, or 10 years with typically 2 tenant option renewals, because you don't want to get a business started here and be here only 5 years and then tell you, well, the rent's now $40 and you got to go. So you do it with tenant renewals. It kind of secures your base rate plus the escalator. If you guys have any, it's different from the escalation clause that you guys do with residential. It's an escalator. It goes up 3% a year, 4% a year, whatever it is, to keep up with inflation, theoretically. So that's going to be up. So, 10 years from now, this rate's going to be higher than $20 by 3% a year compounded. And it's triple net. That's going to be net of taxes, insurance, and common area maintenance. Now, the common area maintenance here is going to be cheaper than some of the other ones, probably. I don't know what the taxes are. So, let's cover the taxes. Property taxes of the whole place, insurance of the whole place. That's what they're talking about. Not your insurance for Burger 21, but insurance in case somebody slips in the parking lot, in case the roof blows off, whatever. That insurance is going to be divided by the total square footage of the property. Okay. So this one is 4,000. Let's say the whole thing is 40,000. So 10% of the taxes and insurance and common area maintenance is going to be paid by whoever takes over this space where the Burger 21 was. Okay, does that make sense? I hope it does. I can't see anyone, but I hope that makes sense to everyone. And so what we're going to find out is what that common area maintenance is, because we're going to add that to our $20 a foot. So if that's $7 a foot, they're going to be paying essentially $27 a foot in the first year. Now, it's a restaurant. If I'm going to use it, I'm going to put a another, let's say I'm going to do a BurgerFi in this place, then I'm not going to need tenant improvement much, right? I'm probably going to want 6 months of free rent or whatever that is. Sometimes it's 3 months, sometimes it's a year. It depends on what it is required. Okay. So any other questions on that? Some places like Marina
Question.
Landing. Yeah, there's a question.
Yes, I got somewhat confused or want to clarify. When you spoke about the triple net, not the triple net, what the commission could be based on all the terms, the square footage and so forth. And you mentioned something about 3%. What was that 3% for? Or what was?
That was just an example of a typical co-bro. It's very similar to residential. It didn't used to be, but now it's very similar to residential, where this guy, well, he works for a management company.
So will it be 3% or whatever the calculation is going to be?
No, it's 3% of this. Of this one, let's say this one. See, this is a very fancy place here at Marina Landings in Tampa. Let's say you do the 1,250 square feet times the $47 a square foot a year, and you do it for 5 years. Okay, you're going to get paid whatever that rental rate is. 1,250 times 47. I'm not doing the math on that. Times the 5 years, but let's say it's 1,000 and this is 50. That's 50,000 a year times 5 years. That's 250,000. It's like selling a $250,000 house. That's what your commission is based on. The first term, the square foot, the total base rent of the first term. So the triple net, that doesn't count. You don't get paid on that. You don't get paid on renewals. So if it's a 5 year with 2 renewals, you don't get paid on the 15 years. You just get paid on the 5 years because there's no guarantee they're going to do the renewals. So you get paid on 5 years times, let's say it's $50 a square foot times 1,000 feet. So 5 times 50,000, you get paid. It's like selling a $250,000 house.
Okay, so you're gonna get paid on the first term and then thereafter for renewals up to 5 years.
No renewals. It's a 5 year term. So it's all 5 years is guaranteed.
Okay, just 5 years, but you only get paid 1 year at a time or for the
No,
whole
you
5
get
years?
You get paid all of it up front. You get
Okay,
paid typically half at lease signing and half at commencement, rent commencement. So if they get 6 months of free rent, you might not get paid for 6 months.
thank you for clarifying. I'm gonna go and find me some of those commercial and get me somebody to do it with me. Yeah, all right.
Get AJ or someone to help you.
Yes, okay, thank you.
All right, great. But yeah, if that's what you guys want to do, as long as you're working with someone doing it, then I'm all for it. Please do it.
I have a question.
Yes.
If they decide to renew after the 5 year term, do you get paid again or no?
Nope.
Mhm.
No, you don't. If you want that, you got to get in the insurance business. They get paid on renewals, but real estate does not.
Okay.
It's the same as if you lease a house and they keep, and you lease it the one time for the 1 month of rent and they stay there for 20 years, you don't get paid every year. You know, it's the same thing. Any other questions?
Ryan, if we decide to refer this out to a commercial realtor, what is a typical commission that we ask in the,
If you straight refer it, it's 25% typically. I mean, you can negotiate whatever you want. If you straight refer it, if you ask for a mentor, they'll typically do less and you learn more.
Yeah.
So I recommend that. But some commercial people, that's why AJ's willing to work with you guys, which is nice. Some commercial people be like, no, it's either refer it to me or don't, you know,
Yeah.
but AJ's real nice about keeping you in the loop and teaching you some things along the way. He's not in business just to teach. I mean, he wants to get the deal done and make money, but he also he's very generous with his time and knowledge. So it's I really love having him around.
what do you think is a good percentage for like a mentor program?
With this commercial, I don't know, whatever they'll work out with you. Honestly, if you can get somebody to keep you in the deal and teach you some things, it's well worth it to, give them whatever, even to just straight refer it. But typically you'll find people to partner with you on it 50-50 or something like that. And that's what I would try to do if I were you guys. And again, I shouldn't say I don't know exactly what AJ wants to do, but what I would do is say, you know, I'd like to split this deal with you, and I'll do all the work. I just want to learn. I want to be in every meeting. I want to do whatever. And if somebody needs to run down to the courthouse or to the city hall to talk to somebody about zoning or anything else, I'll be happy to do it. I'll make all the phone calls. I'll do whatever you tell me to do. You know, that kind of thing. I think is a good learning experience and way to make some money. Yeah, Malvis worked with AJ. They didn't get the deal done, but it worked out really well. She said he was going with her to all the meetings and such. Yeah, he's a super guy. Any other questions on this?
Oh, the time frame of getting commercial deals to close, what has been your shortest and to your longest transaction? Because I know like residential, we can go for 30 days or even 2 weeks or a little bit longer, but I heard commercials like dragged out. Is that right?
This is the quickest stuff. Is typically this kind of stuff. 1031 exchanges, investment properties are quick. I've had them close in less than a month for investment properties, cash 1031 deals on all kinds of stuff. But typically land deals take the longest because there's rezoning and stuff like that involved. Big development deals take longer. But you know, a typical if they're buying a building to if they're buying an office building to move their office headquarters there, it's not long, 60, 90 days. It's not, I mean, it's, it's when you have to do due diligence, rezoning, any kind of mitigation if it's wetlands or something like that. Typically, like residential subdivisions take forever. Anything with a lot of red tape takes a long time. It's typically not the buyers and sellers who are holding it up. It's typically government red tape. The business people want to get going as fast as they can. Sellers want their money and buyers want to get started on whatever they've decided to do, because they don't make money sitting on vacant land. So that's that. Typically, it's closing doesn't happen until the day, like on a residential subdivision or a commercial development, a public center, something like that. When you start seeing bulldozers move out there, closing typically just happened last Friday. So the buyers keep it under contract until they can move dirt, typically. So to answer your question, it's very fast or it varies a ton.
Question. When you used to do this lease business, Ryan, where you typically found your clients?
That's a great question. I wasn't looking, and so I would get stuff passed to me, or I would get it from clients who were doing other things but then needed space here and there. Friends, family, sphere of influence. Ida, I was when you start out in commercial real estate, it is not that much like it's kind of like residential real estate. I went to sales trainings. I did all kinds of stuff. I wrote out my sphere of influence. I wrote down every person that I knew. This was before Facebook or Instagram or anything. I wrote down every person I knew. I tried to have lunch with those people. I tried to do anything I could I'd call those people, let them know what I was doing, let them know you can't be, timid salespeople have skinny kids. You can't be shy about what you're doing. And I let everybody know what I was doing. And people had a cousin who was looking to open a Barstool store. That first deal I ever closed, I made after my broker split, which was 50-50 back then, until you reach certain landmarks. I think I made $1,100 on my first deal. It was a Barstool store. A friend of a friend owned a bar. He made bar stools. And I think it was 1,200 square feet in a little shopping center. So, I mean, it started from nothing. And, but that was because I talked to a friend, and that friend had a friend who just mentioned he was looking for a place for his bar stools. So I reached out to the guy and he's like, yeah. And I said, well, if I find you something, are you ready to go forward? And he said, yeah. So it's just that kind of stuff. You just reach out to people just like you guys should be doing with your residential. Although
Thank you for sharing.
It's a different age now, but you still need to go through your sphere of influence, and you think you've got a grip on them, but you know what? They have 72 other realtors on their Facebook too. So it's not just, you can't just be Facebook friends with them and that's that. You've got to reach out to people and remind them what you do. Not just
Little by little, something, right?
not necessarily. Yeah,
No?
let them know, reach out to your past clients, reach out to whomever and let them know what you're doing. Don't be too subtle. You know, you don't want to be, I mean, they're either going to use you or they're not. So you don't need to be too subtle. Be a salesperson.
Thank you.
What do you recommend as far as training on how to calculate numbers for a commercial investor? So on that, that's what's so great about this base rent, Jackie. You don't have to worry about all the pass-throughs and all that. That is the beauty of the triple net. So if you're calculating numbers for an investor, all you have to do is say, look, this building's 10,000 square feet and the base rent, the average of all the tenants here, or maybe it's just one tenant, but the average of all the tenants here are paying $20 a foot times the 10,000. That brings in, what does that bring in? 2 million a year? Yeah, 2 million a year. Yes, it brings in $2 million a year. Am I doing that right? 10,000 square feet, $20 a foot. Yeah, 2 million a year is what it brings in. 200,000 a year. Sorry, 200,000 a year it brings in. So what is that building worth? How much is that building worth? If they want a 10% return, it's worth $2 million. So that's called the cap rate. And that's a whole different training we'll get into. And now we're talking about selling commercial buildings. That's called the cap rate. So if a building brings in $200,000 a year, typically they're going to want that. If we look at properties for sale in LoopNet, it'll give a cap rate on every listing. Okay. It'll give a cap rate on the listing, which means if it brings in $200,000 a year and it's a 10 cap, it'll sell for $2 million. That means it's a 10% return on your money. All right, because you don't have to worry about insurance and property taxes and keeping the building up, you know, with maintenance and stuff, because that's all worked into the CAM, which is on top of the base rent, which your owner will, whoever manages it will collect that money and distribute it to insurance taxes and to the people who keep the building going. But that is not calculated into the return on the property because it's not an expense. It's being paid by, it's called a pass through. You're passing those expenses through to the tenant. I hope that makes sense, but that's what you do. So a lot of times you'll see though buildings are advertised as a 7 cap or 8 cap or 9 cap or whatever. Typically it's 7 and 8s that you see, which means you pay more than 2 million because you're getting a smaller return percentage wise. Do you always have to ask for CAM or is it listed? Well, if it's not listed, you have to ask for it. This one was the only one I saw with CAM. I looked at about 10 of these this morning. The only one I saw that had this 791 CAM, or I'm sorry, the 398 CAM. It'll be a number typically between 3 and 8. I started to show you this marina landings. This does not have the CAM on it, but I would bet that the CAM is really high. It's a really fancy type place. I bet the taxes are high. I bet the insurance, plus it's on the water. I bet the insurance is high and they keep it looking really nice. So I bet the common area maintenance is high, and it's right here. It's in South Tampa. So I would bet that the CAM here is really high. They didn't list it, but that's the reason I kept this in here, because I wanted to show you the difference between some of these, like where that Burger 21 was and this place, the difference in what the CAM could be. And I bet this one is close to $10 a foot in CAM. Plus, it's very expensive, $47 a square foot a year. And this one on the second floor is a little bit cheaper because it's not going to be as good for walk-in traffic, right? But this is a trendy type place with the Crave Spa, the Chuck Lager, which I assume is some kind of brewery type place, Duckweed Quench Juice Bar. It sounds like a really kind of trendy place on the water. Expensive rents, expensive goods when you go to shop there. And I bet the CAM is expensive, which is why I put it on here, but they did not. They did an offering memorandum, which is what you call this, when somebody does a fancy flyer with it and states all of the important information. But yeah, $47 triple net doesn't say anything else. Okay. And they have 3 of these spaces available at 47, and they're all on the first floor. All right. But you see it's on a marina. That's why it's so fancy. Any other questions? CAM, the triple net is called CAM as an over thing. CAM is part of that. Like I was trying to tell you with your congressmen and your senators, it's still called Congress. The whole thing is called Congress, even though it's separate parts. So part of the triple net is the CAM. The other part is the taxes and insurance. But the whole thing, they just call it CAM. I don't know why. But CAM stands for common area maintenance. That's only 1/3 of the triple net. That's one of the nets. But that people will overall slang wise just call it CAM. If leasing unit is vanilla, can you typically do it after it's constructed? Yeah, that's the whole point of the tenant improvement. You guys will hear vanilla, you hear gray shell, you'll hear different things. Those are all for different parts of a new building that they haven't built out yet. Gray shell is when you walked into a building, you see the exposed ceilings and concrete floors. That's called gray shell. There's vanilla. There's all different kinds of, that's typically when the drywall is up and it's been painted a taupe or some kind of vanilla color where it's just very basic and you can make anything out of it. That is different stages of construction, and you'll see those terms like gray shell and stuff. Guys, this is a whole other business with a whole other lingo. So it's like speaking a different language. So that's why you need a mentor when you go in there. But yes, you can absolutely negotiate anything, and they certainly understand waiting till you can occupy the unit before. You very rarely start paying rent before you occupy the unit. Okay. And usually it's after, sometimes 6 months after, sometimes a year after. A lot of restaurants like to take over old restaurants so they can ask for a year, 9 months of free rent so they can get their business going. Because if you've ever run a restaurant, you know, you've ever seen a restaurant go out of business in the first year, you know that it's tough, that first year particularly. Any other questions on this? All right, any other questions on anything? Any other business that you guys would like to discuss? Yes, Tammy, you literally and on the machine have a raised hand. Yes, go ahead.
Am I off? So I have a couple questions. If I have an op city lead, it's really going to be difficult and weird. And I'm leaving Monday, so I won't be here. And I want to refer it to somebody that's not gotten op city leads in the office. How would I do that? Or how would you pay op city, or how would
you're on the hook for it with op city. So I don't care if you want to split it with Clarence or Lisa or Daniel. It doesn't matter.
But what if I just want to give that person the deal?
You can't. You're on the hook for it. Op city's gonna.
So that person would have to give me the 35%.
Yes.
As a referral fee.
Yes, and I'm not getting them. Why are they not signed up with op city?
I don't know.
Well, it won't matter now because it's your lead, but it's our lead. So this happened to us one time. This is crazy. This happened to us. One of you guys got an op city lead. This was maybe 3 years ago. So I'm going back like 5 years to when one of you guys got an op city lead. When we first got with op city about 5 years ago, one of you guys got an op city lead. It didn't pan out. They gave it back, right? 2 years later, organically, an agent met this same person and they bought a house through them. Another FRI agent, just coincidentally. Op city found that transaction and charged us 35%, or tried to, 35% for that purchase. And they're charging the agent who took it, who had no idea that it ever panned out, who lost contact with these people. They decided not to buy at the time. They didn't qualify. Something happened. And then now they wanted to charge for someone else doing the deal with these same people. And we didn't pay it. I argued, I threatened to leave because of that. That's nonsense.
Yeah.
Just because that person buys down the road with another one of our agents who met them at their church or something. It wasn't related at all. So anyway, they will track their people. That's what my bottom line is.
So I would just refer it to her, and then I can figure it out from there, kind of, I guess.
Well, it just needs to stay. It just needs to stay as an op city lead with us, and op city needs to get paid.
Yes. So she did the transaction and everything. We would just put op city on as pay for the title company. The title company would pay op city out of her transaction.
Well, if you put it on the CDA,
Yeah.
They won't know to do that. You have to put it on the CDA.
Okay. They won't know what agent even did it. Okay. Maybe. I don't know. They asked for stuff. Anyway, I'll figure it out.
Op city won't care. They might if they ask you on the back end on your dashboard.
Right.
They might. But I wouldn't. I don't know that I would go into all that with them.
Yeah. Okay. So my other question is, I have a listing, and the guy is an engineer, and the property is probably a little overpriced. They're not in a hurry. So he told me the other day. So I see this as like phase one. I don't know what word to use. I wouldn't use phase. From now to the closing, because they're buying another house, October 11th, that's one phase. And then from October 11th to the end of the year, that's another phase. And then after the end of the year, that's another phase. I want to know your marketing plan for these phases. And, you know, it's overpriced. And I'm like, kind of like wash, rinse, repeat. So, you know, you would kind of do the same thing over and over and over. But if it's priced too high, I don't know, whatever marketing plan you have, it probably isn't going to work. So what would you say to that?
I would say just that. I would
Okay.
say it doesn't matter how we price it.
Because
You
he's
know,
like,
all the-
so all you have to offer me is price? I mean, I've done a couple of open houses. We're going to kind of lower the price over time. But he's like, it made me feel kind of like an idiot. Like, that's all you have to offer me is price. Well, I'm not a magician and I can't drag people in off the street, you know? So.
Well, I think, yeah, I think that this is a tough situation.
Yeah.
Because of that kind of attitude. I think that people don't understand and one of the things that you probably have to be, Tammy, and just as I would have to be more like you, if I were in your shoes of being Johnny Realtor out there, like all of you guys are, if I were in your shoes, I would have to be nicer, more like you, and you probably have to be a little bit meaner, more like me.
Right.
And a little more direct as far as this, and point out all the things that are wrong, that go wrong when you overprice something. And that goes for this land, for these landlords that we talked about today and everybody else. If it sits there a long time, what's wrong with that? That old BurgerFi thing, if it sits there for a year and a half, it's going to be known as a graveyard for restaurants. You've seen places around. All of you guys know of a place nearby you that's a graveyard for restaurants. Everybody that goes there fails, no matter what.
Right.
But you point out all the things that make his house a graveyard, and overpricing all the things that it does. What happens when you overprice something? It gets stale on the market. People assume there's something wrong with it. The value never goes up and catches up with the house. They think that they're just closing their eyes and hoping that some cash buyer comes from nowhere that's not going to get it appraised, and they're going to want to pay full price. How often does that happen? Maybe twice in your.
I mean, it's not necessarily like drastically overpriced, but when you put it on the market, and we had one request for showing 3 weeks ago, it's overpriced.
How much is the house?
Pardon?
How much is the house?
It's a townhome in Lake Nona, and we start at 509.
A townhome in Lake Nona should have great comps.
No, I know. And he
Well,
watches all the comps. And
okay,
he tells,
then,
he's like, oh, one just closed, so I think we can price it at 509. So he's the kind of person you're not really going to argue with initially because he thinks he knows everything.
How overpriced are you?
Well, originally I wanted to price it like at $499, and that's really what I'd like to really reduce it to ideally and see what happens at $499. And then he's going to be carrying a mortgage that he didn't want to carry. So he's like, well, I'm going to be spending $15,000 over the next few months. So I'm like, so basically we could lower the price of your property and it's a wash for you then. He's like, yeah, but I think he wants as much as he can, you know, like there's going to be a point.
Quickly. And so that's another thing that you're doing. That's another thing that overpricing is doing, is making him keep paying mortgage payments besides sitting on the market.
Well, he's owned out free and clear, but he's buying another house that he's taking a mortgage out. Yeah.
Okay, Tammy, I'm not disparaging townhouses because I'm sitting in one right now. They are, mine is like all of the other, I'm on an end cap one. It's like all the other end cap ones in my subdivision. They're units. They're not, price is all you have to offer him. I don't know what else you can do. He's sitting in a unit. Well, you know, it's a widget. It's like all the other ones, right? It might have a little bit different flooring, a little bit different this or that. What are you supposed to provide him besides price?
Yeah.
You're giving him, I mean, you're going to do open houses. You're going to do you do your best, Tammy, taking care of customer service. That's all you can do. And I would turn my Tammy up on this one just because of that.
Well, and then I'm leaving Monday, but somebody sent me out I guess it was a listing proposal thing. And it talks about doing like a landing page and postcards, and so I'm like, but I don't really know how to do a landing page, but I could, like offer a few things like that. But
Yeah, I think you could, and I think
but I
lots of
mean,
people-
a million people have seen it on Zillow. It's 1,500 people, or I mean, some crazy amount of people, and 6 saves, and in the MLS, 1 save out of 400 and some portals.
Yeah. Well, I think. What do you think would happen with this a year and a half ago?
It would have sold, right? In the boom
Yeah, I
town.
mean, we have the lowest mortgage applications in 8 years
Yeah.
right now.
And I told him that. I said, I have a lot of buyers in my pipeline. Nobody's doing anything. And the interest rate has a bearing on that as well. I said, so people aren't making those decisions right now.
Right. So what I would do is I would turn up my Tammy on this. I would give them a little bit of Ryan and a little bit of Tammy, and I would tell them, go over the things that this is doing. People are going to think there's something wrong with it, although it's a townhouse. The point of the townhouse point I'm trying to make is that they're all roughly the same. There's nothing wrong with this townhouse. There's also nothing that's worthy of a landing page. If you want to do one to appease them, then do that. Have open houses. That's great.
Yeah.
Open houses are great. I would do that. We have agents who will do open houses for you. Guys, those of you who don't want to do open houses, it's still, especially as we're getting more into a buyer's market, and I don't even know if it's a buyer's market because there aren't many sellers either. And we'll talk about that in just a second. As we're getting more into a slower market, you want to let them know that you're working on it. And you want to appease them, even if they don't ask for an open house. You ask them, would you like one? Even though you don't feel like doing an open house.
Right.
We have plenty of agents who will.
Right.
And put it on our Facebook group page. And if someone doesn't respond to that, it's because they didn't see it. I know people who will. So get those open houses going.
And you do. Actually, I did a couple. The one day I had nobody, but it was a rainy day. But the next day I got 5 people, and I probably got a couple of leads. Whether those leads pulled their triggers or not, I don't know, but they were kind of viable leads.
Wow. So one bit of activity turned into more sales. I can't believe that.
I know.
It's unbelievable how this business works.
No.
Unbelievable how this business works. And those of you who are struggling right now, go work an open house. Ask people if you can work their open houses.
I tell you what, there is an agent that is with EXP that I run into Panera. We've become friends. He's a young guy, Hispanic, and that's his business. He does so many open houses, and he's always got, he drives everywhere, but he has business from his open houses, and he comes back to Panera. That's his office, and he enters it all in, and he sets them up on searches. And he's really, it's pretty impressive, actually.
It's like he works like a job.
Yeah.
My gosh.
Yeah, it's unusual.
Wild. So you guys think about all that stuff. I apologize for my sarcasm.
Hey, can I ask a question?
Yes, Ida.
To Tammy, when you went into this listing, and sellers always want a higher price, and you knew it was not where you will have recommended, did you negotiate it or suggested, if it doesn't have any activity or doesn't sell within this time period, this is where we need to be? Did you negotiate that and mention that to this person?
Yeah, originally we were going to list it a couple of weeks prior, and we were at $499 when I listed, or when we were going to list it, but then the other deal fell through and he held off listing it, and then another one closed. He's like, well, I want to list at $509. And I didn't really say set in stone. I said, well, okay, we can price it at $509. If we don't get any activity, we'll have to probably adjust the price. I verbalized that, but it wasn't a big deal. You kind of got the personality of the person you're working with. Some people you don't feel like, some people I feel like I can say whatever I want to, but this particular person, I feel like, I could offend him. I don't know. It's
so you were cautious with this seller, but again, Ryan, don't you want to from the starting point, put it in writing on the additional terms on the contract, at this period of time, we will have to lower it to this amount. If not, then go forward. So that way you have it in writing prior to going through this nonsense that she's going through with this seller.
You can do that, Ida, but think you're going to want to do other things. I think that can be limiting also.
He might see it as a cop out. He might
Yeah,
see
well,
it as not trying.
Yeah, that's
That before I
one
even
thing
listed, I'm talking about lowering his price.
yeah, you don't want him to think that you're against him and that you can't wait to lower your price, can't wait to lower
Exactly.
your price.
You
And
just
if
want your
put it in there-
commission. So
and
you
yet-
want to just sell it. Yeah.
And I've seen a little bit of everything on this. So I've seen people think that accuse the agent of just running out the clock until they can change the price and not trying very hard the first 3 weeks. But I think it keeps you more agile based on, because you don't know how many showings you're going to have and how many this or that. But there's documentation, Tammy, that you can show them as well. If it's not showing, it's because it's overpriced. If it's showing and you're not getting offers, it's because it's not showing well for the price. So those are a couple of things to go over with them. So yes, Ida, you absolutely can do that. If you go in and you've given them a comp, given them comps, and you come up with $4.99 and they insist on $5.19, let's say, then yeah, you say, you know what, we'll list it at whatever you guys want, but we'll try that for a couple of weeks, see how the showings go, and then lower it to this. And if everybody's agreeable to that, then go ahead and put it on the thing. That's fine.
And
In
do
the
you-
additional terms. But I like to stay agile enough to have open dialogue with them about, look, guys, it's been 2 weeks. We've had one showing. You
Is
know,
there
when you're not
something
getting
from like
showings,
the Realtors Association that's actually like legal documentation kind of thing, or like, that you can show the seller? I could probably Google something
you
that's,
can Google something where they've done studies. It's not going to be there's
Yeah.
not a legal thing that says
yeah,
that
I mean, it's legal. I couldn't think of like
like published something
yeah,
published.
like
a study or
published
something.
that, yes. Yeah. Statistics
No.
that are published.
Do you keep him updated as to what you're doing for marketing the property? And when I say this term, to write it prior, beforehand, and agree, it's not like it's in a stone, because you're gonna show that person that what is it that you're doing to market the property. It's just like, hey, I suggested this is what happening in the market, and this is the price, the suggested price, but you want it higher? Yeah, we can definitely begin at that. Are you keeping this person, seller, updated maybe weekly as to what's going on, what you're doing, and what the market is doing? Have you taken that seller to see the property that I have sold, so they know, does my property look like that one that sold? Maybe they get.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is great. And yes, I need to do that better, but he does it himself. He stays up on all of that himself, but it would be good that I do it, because then he would know that I am doing it.
You're
basically.
proactive.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a number person, so it's like maybe a no win with this person. Look like
Right.
it.
Right.
Yeah, what a pain in the butt, right?
He's very nice, but he's very picky.
Yeah, he's an engineer.
Best of luck with you on that,
Oh,
Tommy.
thank you.
Yeah.
Engineers don't want to know what time it is. They want to know how the watch is built.
Exactly.
So any other questions or comments?
Thank you for sharing your story, Tommy.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you everybody for coming to Tammy's story time. Tammy, I think you're gonna be fine. Just I would work the open houses and let them know that you're more than just someone who wants them to bring down his price. They get the feeling sometimes that you're working against them. We all have had that. You ever had a lawsuit that your lawyer's telling you to settle or whatever, or, we don't want to take this to court, just need more lawyer fees and all this stuff. Sometimes you feel like they're working against you.
Right.
And maybe sometimes they aren't, they're lawyers, but you don't want to have that feeling with your agent who's supposed to be on your side. There are other people. I had an agent this week tell me someone else is saying that they're telling, I had a listing appointment and the seller is now saying this other person's going to put it on websites all around the world. Yes, they are on websites all around the world. Everyone IDX is when you put something on MLS, it goes on websites all around the world. Someone else just told them something that they can't put it on websites. It's against MLS rules for you to put it on a website that other people can't see, right? So of course it's gonna be on the same ones. That would be keeping it off the MLS and putting it on different websites, unless they agree to that. Malvis, you have a hand up.
Sorry. Yes. Can you hear me?
I can't.
Yes. Okay. So, Ryan, please, I apologize. I know we kind of covered this last week, but I did log in a little late into the meeting. I wanted to bring back, I do have a question about the condo writer, and that is in regards of the condo docs. And I do know that you mentioned that the lender, if the property is being financed, the lender will take care of that. The lender will send the questionnaire. The lender will do all that. So as for the realtor, when you check that box that says buyer request condo docs, and there's a paragraph, the second box, the second paragraph on the second page, it says buyer request condo docs, year-end financial documents, blah, 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 and buyer has 3 days from the time that they receive the documents to cancel the contract. My question is, if in the contract itself, the condo writer is checked, and on the condo writer that box is checked, even after the inspection period passes, the buyer still have those 3 days to walk out if they wish to after they receive the documents.
Yeah, but doesn't your condo writer is going to say that they're going to get those documents within an X amount of days? So if they get them within 5, I think it says 5 is the default. If they get them within 5 days, and let's say their inspection period is 10 days, if they get those within the 5 days that they're supposed to get them in, their whole 8 days falls within the 10 days. So no. The only time that would be is if there's no inspection period or a 5-day inspection period and they don't get the condo docs until the 5th day, then they have 3 more days.
Okay. I'm sorry, I did not understand that.
Okay. I'm just going to say the same thing, but slower. Okay. So the inspection period, let's say it's 10 days.
Yes.
And your condo doc says that the seller has 5 days to get the buyers the documents.
Okay. So my inspection period expires tomorrow. Okay.
Okay. Let me go over the scenario first. And then we'll talk about yours. So if your inspection period is 10 days and your condo docs say the condo writer says that you have 5 days as the seller, you have 5 days to get the buyer the documents, and the buyer has 3 days to look over those. That all falls within the inspection period. If your inspection period, let's say, is 5 days, or you have no inspection period, the seller has 5 days to get the buyer those documents, and they have 3 days to review them. So yeah, they still have 3 days after they get the documents that they could cancel because of something in the documents. They can't cancel because their cousin passed away and they've got to leave town.
Right.
But they can cancel because of that. Okay. So tell me your scenario now.
So inspection period it expires tomorrow. I did requested the documents and everything. I have not gotten anything yet. I did get the, articles of incorporation. I get the bylaws, all of that stuff. The buyer already has it, but I don't have like the year-end documents or the budgets or anything of that. The lender have already requested, and they have sent the condo questionnaire to the HOA manager this past Monday. He still haven't heard back. So my question is, so my inspection period expires tomorrow. Do I need to request to extend my inspection period because the lender have not received those documents yet? Or is my buyer okay letting the inspection period pass by if they're okay?
This is all falling on their financing. If they still have a financing contingency, they're fine. Because it's the lender who wants to see these things. The buyer's not going to look at the year-end thing and say, "Oh, I'm out of here." It's the lender who's going to look at it and say, "Oh, we can't do this loan." And if that's the case, then that's obviously part of their financing contingency. So when does their loan approval run out?
I have 30 days, so we're still on.
You know what I would do just to annoy them because they're not getting you these documents is ask them for extension of the inspection period. Let them know that this is serious.
Okay.
So that's what I would recommend. As your fellow realtor, as on behalf of your brokerage, you're fine because of the loan approval period. And this is a loan approval thing. Your buyer's not looking at these documents and saying, "Oh, I don't want any part of this." They probably don't know exactly what they're looking at, but the lender does.
Exactly. I just ask it because I from previous meetings, it was the right thing for me to do. I won't even understand them. I mean, I saw the condo questionnaire from the lender because when I asked the lender, he forwarded me the email that the processor had already sent to the HOA and they still haven't heard back. But I don't understand the questionnaire myself either.
Okay, that's fair enough. So what they have at the association management is an employee who doesn't care. Everyone else is motivated by getting the deal closed. The lender, you, the other agent, the buyer, the seller, everybody's motivated by getting the deal closed, except for the employee who gets paid every Friday, no matter what happens at the management company. So they need a fire lit under them. I've been on both sides of this. It's frustrating when you're on the seller side because you're asking them, please just process this, please just answer, please just send them the docs. And I'll get around to it. Typically, they don't answer their phone. They don't respond to email. It's not really a customer service environment very much, you know, especially for an outgoing seller. What do they care? So it can cause problems, but you do have to have that agent after them or they'll never get it done. So I would ask, I'm sure they're motivated to do it because they want a closing. So I would ask for an extension of the inspection period until you can get those, even though it's not necessary. I would do that. Just to annoy them a little bit, just to light a fire.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right. Well, we're gonna get. We just had someone join the call. We're gonna get going. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate you all being here today. And if there's no further questions, we will see you next week. Hopefully, you guys learned something or whatever. See you next week.